Well, welcome back to our fourth sequential deep dive into the meticulously kept Cancer Journey Journal. And for those of you who've been following along with us, you know this journal is a highly quantified, deeply personal log of one patient's day-by-day battle with stage 4 cancer.
It really is incredible.
It is. And our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's a heavy one. Today, we finally have those results. We are diving into a fresh, incredibly detailed stack of medical sources.
There's a lot of data here.
So much data. Our materials include a brand new set of chest, abdomen, and pelvis CT scans, a lumbar spine MRI, the absolute latest numbers from the patient's intricate tumor marker spreadsheet, and a personal email blast that was sent out on June 5th detailing the new battle plan.
Yeah.
So we are basically looking at a master class in managing a catastrophic crisis.
We really are. And the radiologist's conclusion from the abdominal and pelvic CT scan, that kind of provides our grim starting point today.
Yeah, the phrasing is pretty stark.
It is. It simply reads, concerning for progressive metastatic disease. So the liver remains the absolute primary ground zero here.
Right. And, one of the things that makes this journal so compelling is the patient's brilliant coping mechanism.
Name convention, yeah.
Yes. They refuse to let the radiologist's data remain abstract, so they assign these terrifying numbers physical, relatable shapes. They refer to the two main liver tumors as the squatters.
Which is such a smart tactic. Converting a clinical measurement into a tangible adversary, it's a vital psychological tool.
How so?
Well, it grounds the terror into something you can visualize, right? Something you can compartmentalize and therefore mentally manage.
That makes total sense.
Hmm.
So let's look at the actual measurements of these squatters, because the growth is honestly staggering.
It really is.
Squatter 1, which the patient noted was the size of a small grape back in April, it grew by 48%.
Wow.
Yeah. It is now the size of a walnut.
Complicated.
Wow. And then Squatter 2 is even more aggressive. It exploded by 166%.
That's just a massive jump.
Right. Back in April, it was the size of a tator-tot, or like a small pea. And now it's the size of a lime. The scan measures it at 3.6 by 3 centimeters.
Lime, yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The scan reveals this is no longer just a localized problem with two distinct squatters.
Yeah, the floodgates opened.
Yeah, exactly. The CT scan describes, quote, innumerable sub-centimeter newly visualized lesions throughout both the right and left lobes of the liver.
So it's everywhere in the liver now.
Right. And the chest scan also found a new bean-sized spot, about 7 by 11 millimeters, in the left upper lung alongside microscopic spots in the right lung.
Yeah.
And the scan also notes an interval increase in mesenteric edema, which is like severe swelling in the tissues holding the intestines in place.
Right.
And then we see the finding of small volume fluid in the pelvis.
Yeah, and this brings us to malignant ascites. See, cancer cells don't just sit there inertly. They actively secrete proteins and hormones, like vascular endothelial growth factor.
Okay.
And these chemicals irritate the lining of the abdominal cavity, the peritoneum, which causes the tiny blood vessels to become highly permeable. Basically, they start leaking plasma.
So they're springing leaks.
Exactly. The cancer is creating a highly toxic, intensely inflammatory environment. So the patient's abdomen is slowly filling with fluid because the tumors are breaking down the cellular walls of their own environment.
The sheer physical exhaustion of carrying that inflammatory burden around all day must just be immense.
Unimaginable, really.
But, the liver, the lungs, the lymph nodes, those are all soft tissues. The cancer is literally putting weight on the patient's structural integrity, too. The skeletal system is fighting a completely different type of battle, which brings us to the lumbar spine MRI.
Right, because bone metastases behave very differently than soft tissue metastases. They require a completely different tactical approach. The sheer density of bone changes how tumors grow and ultimately how we can attack them.
Okay, so let's start with a hard-won victory here. In our previous deep dives, we discussed a severe tumor on the T12 vertebrae in the spine.
The backseat driver.
Yes, the backseat driver. And 3 months prior, the medical team hit that T12 backseat driver with heavy targeted radiation.
Right.
And the new lumbar spine MRI shows that the radiation successfully held the line. The scan notes unchanged hypointense T1 and T2 weighted signal.
And freezing a spinal tumor like that is a massive clinical win. I mean, it prevents a cascade of horrific complications like spinal cord compression or the literal structural collapse of the vertebrae.
Cells.
Exactly. The physical imaging gives us the exact geographical map of this systemic flood. We see the walnut and the lime in the liver, the rotting lymph nodes, the new spots on the spine, but physical scans, they only show us a snapshot in time.
Right, which is why the patient's meticulously tracked blood work is so crucial. It tells us how fast the fire's burning in real time.
Yes.
Let's dive into the CEA tumor marker tracker spreadsheet. So CEA stands for carcinoembryonic antigen. Establish the baseline for us. Like a normal healthy adult should have a CEA score between 0.0 and 3.7.
Yeah, it should be barely detectable.
Okay, so back in December and January, the patient's score was hovering around 13 to 15. Mildly elevated, definitely concerning. But by May 5th, the number hit 36.61.
Yeah.
And now, looking at the entry for June 7th, it has skyrocketed to a staggering 64.2.
That is an explosive vertical climb on a graph. It indicates a massive surge in tumor volume and biological activity. The tumors are shedding that sticky protein at just an alarming rate.
So what does this all mean? The patient brilliantly frames this metric in their journal, calling the CEA a chemical smoke detector.
Such a great analogy.
It is. Because if a 13 was a faint smell of smoke in the kitchen and a 36 was the detector nervously chirping, a score of 64.2 isn't just a quiet beep in the hallway. It is a deafening, shrieking alarm indicating the house is fully ablaze.
It is. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, while a number like 64.2 looks absolute terrifying on a spreadsheet, in the complex world of oncology, it actually provides a vital clinical advantage.
Wait, really? I struggle to see how a massive biological spike could ever be considered an advantage. How is that good news for the patient?
Because it removes the shadows. Ambiguity is an oncologist's worst enemy.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Right. When tumor marker numbers are lingering around a 6 or a 7, the medical team is forced into a dangerous guessing game. Is the slight elevation just inflammation? Is it a minor gastrointestinal infection? Is it a delayed, benign reaction to a past treatment?
You just don't know?
Exactly. But a 64.2 perfectly matches the aggressive spread we just saw on the physical scans. There is zero ambiguity. It gives the medical team an undeniable illuminated target. The fire is entirely visible, and now they know precisely what scale of emergency they were fighting.
Okay, that reframes the entire data set. It transforms a terrifying piece of bad news into a strategic asset. And with the scans mapped out and that smoke detector blaring at 64.2, the patient refuses to be paralyzed.
No, they take action.
They really do. Which brings us to the final source, the June 5th email blast update sent to their friends and family. Imagine receiving the scans we just talked about. The lime, the walnut, the spots on the spine, the 64.2 alarm. You'd expect this email to be a white flag.
You would.
Instead, it is titled Simple, Focused, and Moving Forward. Rocket ship emoji.
I love that.
The strategy shifts immediately. The patient announces they are starting round 1 of a brand new 2-month chemotherapy regimen the very next morning, a Saturday morning.
Right, to work.
Yeah. The stated goal in the email is to hit this hard and use the right chemo cocktail to, quote, evict these uninvited guests for good. But what really caught my eye isn't just the immediate chemo plan. The patient lists out an entire arsenal of future contingencies kept in reserve.
The backup plans.
Yeah, they aren't just looking at tomorrow. They are looking at the next 5 moves on the chessboard.
And this is where we see modern medical strategy at its finest. This isn't just a patient blindly following a doctor's single order. This is a collaborative war room.
Let's actually unpack this arsenal because it reads like science fiction. They list targeted therapies like daraxonrasib and Lonsurf. They list looking into specific KRAS clinical trials. They even list localized procedures like Y90 liver treatment, HIPEC surgery, or further tumor ablation.
So many options.
For someone just trying to survive the week, how do these future contingencies actually work?
Well, let's break down the mechanics, because understanding the weapons gives the patient their power back. Daraxonrasib and the KRAS trials deal with targeted genetic therapy.
Okay.
The KRAS gene is like an on and off switch for cell division. In many cancers, that switch gets permanently jammed in the on position. Daraxonrasib is a highly specific molecule designed to physically wedge itself into that jammed switch and force it off, which starves the tumor.
That is amazing. And Lonsurf?
Lonsurf is a fascinating oral chemotherapy. It acts like a Trojan horse.
Mm.
Yeah, it mimics the basic building blocks of DNA. So when the rapid-firing cancer cells try to multiply, they grab the Lonsurf molecules thinking they're a normal DNA material.
And then what happens?
Once incorporated, the fake building blocks cause the cancer cell's entire genetic code to collapse, triggering cell death.
Wow, so you have targeted genetic wedges in Trojan horse DNA. But what about the physical localized procedures they listed? What is Y90 liver treatment?
So Y90, or radioembolization, leverages the liver's unique plumbing. The liver tumors rely heavily on the hepatic artery for blood.
Okay.
In a Y90 procedure, doctors thread a tiny catheter into that specific artery and release millions of microscopic glass beads filled with the radioactive isotope yttrium-90.
Wait, radioactive glass beads?
Yes. These radioactive beads get lodged directly in the blood vessels feeding the squatters, blasting them with high-dose radiation from the inside out while sparing the healthy liver tissue.
By outlining the daraxonresib, the Y90 beads, the HIPEC hot wash, they ensure there are multiple, highly sophisticated treatment bridges available if and when the new chemo regimen stops working.
Exactly.
You don't wait for the well to run dry before you start digging the next one.
You must always build a bridge to the next scientific breakthrough. The aggressive 2-month chemo plan starting on that Saturday morning is the immediate bridge. And the contingencies, well, those are the safety nets beneath it.
To bring all of this together for you listening,
Yeah.
we have just walked through a masterclass in navigating catastrophic medical news.
We really have.
We looked at the harsh mathematical reality of the liver squatters evolving from a grape and a tater-tot into a walnut and a lime. We explored the complex victory of a stable T12 backseat driver in the spine and why the new hyperintense spot creeping in at L1 signifies a terrifying systemic spread that threatens the bone marrow factory.
And we also unpacked how a deafening 64.2 CEA smoke detector wasn't just a cause for panic, but the exact undeniable signal needed to remove the shadows of ambiguity, triggering an immediate, highly aggressive counterattack.
It's a profound reminder of the value of treating a terrifying crisis as a manageable data set. Because when you break a nightmare down into exact tumor measurements, fetal glycoprotein levels, and specific hyperlinked clinical trials, you stop being a passive victim of a disease. You become the active CEO managing a high-stakes turnaround.
It is the stark difference between drowning in fear and navigating by the numbers.
So we want to leave you with a different kind of thought to ponder long after you finish this deep dive. When we face a massive crisis, whether it's a sudden medical diagnosis, a severe financial disaster, or a deeply personal failure, we are culturally conditioned to cling to hope.
Yeah.
We hope things get better. We hope the first plan works. But as we've seen in this journal, hope is actually a terrible standalone strategy. The true antidote to panic isn't hope. It is optionality.
I agree completely.
It is the willingness to accept that your first, second, and third plans will likely fail. So when the uninvited guests in your own life start multiplying and the alarms are shrieking, will you just sit there and hope the fire goes out? Or will you have an algorithm for failure already drafted, mapping out your contingencies, ready to launch your counterattack the very next morning?